but it tonally is very different. And I think the idea was that, we should at this point maybe have a little departure tonally from what we've done before to surprise the audience of the people who've watched the previous films, but also maybe to bring in some new audience too.
I'd give all I have to hear my daughter's voice.
If someone wants to be heard, we are here. Listening.
Mama.
I see a difference between A Haunting in Venice and the previous Agatha Christie movies. In this movie we have the presence of the supernatural, so why did you choose this story specifically to tell now?
I think you've sort of nailed it on the head, really. It was to make something different, I think. Michael Green, who's the writer, talked to me a long time ago about wanting to do something with Halloween Party, which is the book on which this is based. At first I wasn't quite sure what he was getting at or why in particular or what he saw in that story. But 2 or 3 years ago I had a meeting with him, with Ken Branagh, with Steve Aspel from 20th Century, and he kind of explained it. He felt that having done 2 very traditional, quite straight adaptations in Murder on the Orient Express and Death on the Nile, he felt we should try and surprise our audience. We should try and amaze them with something a little bit different. And you will see in this movie that, there are elements of horror. It's not a horror movie as such, but it has moments that are scary. I think it's a suspense thriller, and at its heart it is a murder mystery, but it tonally is very different. And I think the idea was that, we should at this point maybe have a little departure tonally from what we've done before to surprise the audience of the people who've watched the previous films, but also maybe to bring in some new audience too.
A Haunting in Venice mixes a mystery plot with supernatural elements. So how did you compose the film's soundtrack to give this feeling to the audience?
Well, I was referencing mostly classical or let's say forward-thinking classical music of this time with how I composed the music. So I was looking towards the ways that melodies were changing in this time and the way the composers of this time were raising questions about what is music and what is sound and how are we playing our instruments and what is melody and how can we break it up? How can we break up all the old structures? So I was looking at these questions as I placed the music in the timeline. So whenever they're looking backwards in time and to a more melancholic, pre-war era, that we have melody that sweeps in, and in the more forward-facing scenes, like when the big reveal of who done it is happening, then we're breaking up the melody and moving forward to the more atonal times. So I was looking at it from a kind of historical point of view.
This is Kenneth Branagh's third adaptation of Agatha Christie. So how has it been working with him? And do you have plans for new movies in a possible Agatha Christie cinematic universe?
Working with Ken Branagh is just extraordinary. I mean, he is one of the most talented people. He's incredibly intelligent, harder working than anyone. He kind of makes you feel completely inadequate. So all I can do is sing Ken's praises. He's one of the best actors of his generation, and having him want to play Poirot is a joy. In terms of the future, I mean, let's deal with the present now. Let's hope people enjoy this film. But, if people want to make more films, if Ken wants to make more films, it's my privilege in life to try and share my great-grandmother's stories with as many people as possible, and I can't think of many better ways of doing that than with Ken and 20th Century. So yeah, I'd love to make more.
Somebody is dead. No one shall leave this place until I know who did it.
A ghost killed her.
How was for you to work on this adaptation of Agatha Christie? Have you previously had any relationship with her work?
Yes, I have a huge relationship with her work because everyone in my family is a huge fan. So when my mother was pregnant with me, she read one Agatha Christie novel a day, because she couldn't really get out of bed. So I think that the connection with her is really, deep in my blood.
You won an Oscar for Joker, and you have been quite prominent in recent years. So how was A Haunting in Venice different from your previous work?
Well, I think every film is different. So every film you have to just approach it from what this film is saying, what this story is saying, where this period, like what the role of the music is within this film, and so I think every single project is really different, and working with different directors and different people is also very different, because directors, their process is as different as people are. So you kind of have to start from the beginning point on every single process and every new collaboration. You have to get to know the person. So that's kind of also what makes it exciting, I think.
As a great-grandson of Agatha Christie, how is for you this experience of working these adaptations and manage her rich material?
It's an extraordinary thing. One of the things I sort of learned from my father, actually, who did this job before me, was in business you should pick your partners really carefully and then trust them. And what is great about this whole project is we've had basically the same team from the beginning. Michael Green's written all 3 screenplays, Ken's obviously directed and starred in all 3, and Steve Asbell's been at 20th Century throughout. So there is a massive element of trust, and with that, actually, my role is diminished. It does help that they are all brilliant at their jobs and have an incredible respect for my great-grandmother, and that means that actually my need for intervention is very minimal.
If you could choose one Agatha Christie story to take to the big screen next year and 2 actors to star in it, who would they be?
I'm never very good at this one. Look, I love what we've done. I don't really tend to sort of dream in that kind of way. I'd like to build off what we've got here. I'd really like A Haunting in Venice to be a massive success, and then we'll work out where we go from there. So I'm afraid that's as good as you're going to get from me.
No one shall leave until I find if the living have been killed by the dead. You have been hiding here all this time.
Who are you talking to?